السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه، أما بعد. مرحبا بالإخوة والأخوات أعضاء المبادرة الطيبة. إن شاء الله في الدرس دوت هنكمل شرح الدرس رقم 10، وهيبقى فيه كلام عن اللوكاليزيشنز. نقول بسم الله توكلنا على الله.
When we put an app on the Google Play Store, we'll have a whole range of users. It's hard to anticipate what type of device our app will be running on. Maybe a phone or a tablet, maybe an older version of the Android platform, or maybe a different language than what we're using. There are many best practices that you can follow when building your app to make it work well for all these types of users. One best practice is to localize your app. There's a handy localization checklist that you can refer to. Localization means adapting your app to different locales, meaning language and country combinations, to make it a positive user experience for all types of users. At the surface level, this can have an impact on the design of your app, as well as the text strings that appear in your app. For now, we're going to focus on how we can make your app support different languages. First, let's look at the device experience from a user's perspective. If I prefer to use a different language, I can go into the Settings app and then tap on the Language and Input setting. If I tap on Language, then I see the whole list of languages that are supported on Android. It includes character-based languages like Chinese and right-to-left languages like Arabic. I'm going to change the language to Spanish. And just like that, all the text is now showing up in Spanish. You can see this across the whole Settings app. If you check the other apps on the device, those will appear in Spanish if the developer chose to support that language. However, when you open up our Just Java app, it's a jarring experience because everything in this app is still in English, while the other apps on the device are in Spanish. So how do we make our app support Spanish? So far, we know that our app can contain Java files and resources. We can provide default resources for our app, but we can also provide alternate resources depending on the user's physical device size, language setting, version of Android, or number of pixels on the screen, to name a few. In our Just Java app, we can provide default text strings in English. We can provide alternate text strings in other languages. So if someone has French as a default language on their device, the system will automatically load the French translations instead of the default English ones. This article explains how you can support multiple languages in an app. Scrolling down, you can look at the project structure. Within the res directory, you can add another subdirectory that contains resources for a certain language. This is the default values folder, and we're choosing to put all the English text strings here. In the values ES folder, we have all the Spanish text strings. In the values-fr folder, we have all the French translations. If the user chooses Spanish as the language on their device, then the system will load these resources from the values ES folder. If this folder didn't exist, then the system would just fall back to the default resources. If the user has French as the default language on their device, then the system will load these resources. By the way, ES is the language code for Spanish, and FR is the language code for French. Android uses the ISO language codes. Here are some examples of languages and the two-letter language codes that correspond with them. Let's go back to implementation details. In order for the system to switch out different translations for the text in our app, we need to isolate all the text from all the other logic in our app. We do this by creating a strings.xml file in the values folder. This is an XML resource file that contains a list of all the string resources that are visible to the user. This is the first time we're seeing XML be used for something other than defining a layout. This is defining a list of resources. This is one string resource, and the name that we use to refer to it is called title. And the value of this string is my application. This is another string resource, and we refer to it using hello_world, and the actual value is hello world. Then in the values ES folder, we can create a strings.xml file, but now these have the Spanish translations of those same strings. This string resource still goes by the name of title, like here, but now the value is the Spanish translation of my application. The same applies for the hello world string resource with the Spanish translation here now. And this is one more example of the French translations of the strings.xml file. Once our strings are declared as resources, we can then refer to them in the XML or Java using the appropriate syntax. In the Java code, we refer to strings like this. In the Java code, this is how we reference string resources. First, we call the method getResources to get the app's resources. And then we call getString, and we pass as input the resource ID of the string. In this case, it's r.string.hello_world. String is the resource type, and hello_world is the name of the resource. All of this on the right-hand side ends up becoming the hello world string and is stored in this string variable. This whole expression evaluates to hello world and gets stored in this variable. By the way, this is similar to how we refer to image resources in the Java code using r.drawable.photo, or whatever the name of the image is. In the XML, we can refer to the strings using the @string notation and then the name of the string resource. Now the XML and the Java code can stay the same regardless of what language the user has chosen on their device. We don't need a different layout file that has the Spanish translation for the text attribute here. Android will load the correct translations depending on the primary language selected on the device. Pretty awesome, huh? Let's walk through each of these steps so that you can see how to localize the strings in your app. First, we want to extract all the hard-coded strings from the XML and Java files into a default strings.xml file. Then we're going to update the XML and Java files to refer to the appropriate string resources. And then we're going to provide alternate translations in another language. Let's start with step 1. In our activity main layout, let's look at the strings that are currently hard-coded into our layout. We have a text view that displays the word toppings as a header in the UI. Currently, the English word is hard-coded into the layout, and we even get a warning from Android Studio talking about it. It recommends that we use an @string resource, so let's do that now. I'm going to delete this and then type in @string/toppings as the name of the resource. But now I get an error saying that Android Studio doesn't recognize this resource. I need to go into the strings.xml file and define it. Looking at the file structure of our app, I can go into the res values folder and look for the strings.xml file. There are a couple of strings that are already populated here, and I'm going to add another one. I just declared a new string resource with the name toppings, and the value is the English word for toppings. The name of the string resource isn't going to change, but the translated value will change depending on the language. Notice that I added a comment here to describe where the string is being used in the app. This will help the translator or the translation service who's helping out to understand the context in which this string is being used in our app. We also specify a character limit. This is also helpful for the translator when space in the UI is limited. For example, the translator won't pick a really long translation if they understand that we have limited screen real estate. Going back to our layout file, now the error is gone because this string resource exists. Now how about hard-coded strings within our Java files? Let's take a look at our createOrderSummary method, which has a bunch of English strings hard-coded in. Let's start by moving the phrase thank you to the strings.xml file. And here's the new string resource with the name thank_you. Then we can update the Java statement to refer to the new string resource by its name. We're using the getString method within the activity class, which takes as input a string resource and returns a string. The thank you string is then added onto this whole message. In certain cases, you might not want to translate parts of a text string. For example, you might want to create a string and then leave spots that can be filled in later with variables. In that case, you want to mark off the spots that shouldn't be translated with an xlif tag. It wouldn't make sense to translate the user's name, but it would make sense to translate name. So when used properly, this whole string resource would show up as name, and then the person's name, like Amy. With the xlif tag, you give it an ID, which is name, and then you can specify an example, like Amy. Inside the xlif tags, you would put the string that shouldn't be translated. In this case, we're using the %s formatter symbol, which specifies that a string will be substituted in here later. If you're wondering why we don't just add the strings using the plus symbol in the Java code, the reason is because declaring it as a string resource allows the translator to decide if this is the right format for the text. The translator may decide to flip the order of some of these words so that it makes more sense in the local context. The translator only has control over the words in the strings.xml file. They don't have control over the Java code. For the xlif tag to be recognized, you'll also want to add this thing to the resources tag in your strings.xml file. Now in the Java code, we're going to replace this part of the order summary with our string resource. Now we're using the order summary name string resource, and we're filling in the blank using the name variable. Normally, this getString method in the activity would take as argument one input, which is just the string resource. But now it takes in two arguments because we want to pass in the name variable and have that be inserted into the blank spot in this string. If your string resource had two spots that needed to be filled in, then you would pass in two additional inputs here, so that would be a total of 3 inputs to the method call, and so on from there. If you want any more clarification on how to use the xlif tags, you can check the localization checklist, which is linked in the instructor notes below. So far we've covered these 2 steps, and now we're going to look at providing alternate translations in another language. So in Android Studio, there's actually a neat little tool called the Translations Editor. You can access it by clicking on Open Editor, or you can right-click on the strings.xml file and then click on Open Translations Editor. There's a column for the name of the string resource, and then the default value, which is the English translation right now. Each row corresponds to another string resource that we defined in our strings.xml file. If we click on the globe icon here, we can add a new language. I'm going to type Spanish and add Spanish. You can click on the cell here to provide the Spanish translation for the string resource thank you. I'm going to type in gracias, which means thank you, in my terrible Spanish accent. We can do the same for our toppings header, and this is the Spanish translation. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Now let's rebuild our app. My device still has Spanish as the default language, and when I open up our app, now I see that the toppings header is translated in Spanish. The rest is still in English because I haven't finished it yet. And then when I click on the order button, then I see gracias. It's awesome that it worked. Behind the scenes, the translation editor did a couple of things for us. It created the Spanish version of the strings.xml file. When you click on that, you can see that it automatically added the translations in. If we didn't provide Spanish translations, then it doesn't appear here. As a developer, you have the option of modifying the strings file directly or using the translations editor. If you want to add more languages, you can simply click on the globe icon here. Cool, we've just finished all 3 steps for localizing a couple of strings into Spanish. Now there are a few other hard-coded strings that we missed, but this time I'd like you to take the lead in localizing them. You'll find Spanish translations for these text strings in the instructor notes below, but you're welcome to pick another language of your choice. At the end, your app should look like this, assuming that you chose Spanish. And then when you hit the order button, the email subject line and the message body are both in Spanish.
طبعا الكلام ده احنا خدناه قبل كده. فقط الحاجة اللي احنا يعني نسينا نقولها التاجة اللي اسمها xlif ديت. التاجة ديت باختصار شديد لو انا عايز اعمل استبدال لجزء من النص المفروض ان هو يترجم دوت واخليه يبقى variable، يعني خليه يعني متغير. يعني ايه الكلام دوت؟ يعني انا مثلا عندي نص دوت عايزه يبقى ايه translator، يعني يبقى مترجم. طيب هل كل النص عايزه مترجم ولا في اجزاء من النص واجزاء لا؟ لا، في بعض الكلمات او بعض يعني اجزاء من النص بتاعي مش عايزها تترجم. طيب هتتحكم فيها ازاي؟ من خلال الكود، وانا باجي انده على القيمة نفسها الخاصة بهذا النص، ببعت له قيمة متغير. قيمة المتغير ده بيتم استبداله في النص نفسه. يعني على سبيل المثال هناخد ان الكود بتاعنا اللي هو بيعمل create للسمري، عندي مثلا name، عندي add web cream، تمام؟ الكلام ده انا عايزه ان هو يترجم، بس اللي بعد كلمة اللي هو name ديت اللي هو اللي قيمة المتغير ديت اللي انا مش عايزها تترجم. ما هو كده انا اصلا بتحكم فيها من خلال المتغير، واحنا عارفين ان القيمة ديت بتيجي من خلال ادخال المستخدم. يعني القيمة اللي بيدخلها هنا سواء عربي او انجليزي او اي لغة، المفروض ان هي بتيجي هنا تشتغل. طيب انا عايز الكلام دوت يجي معايا مع الكلمة، وفي نفس الوقت اخلي امكاني المترجم ان هو يتحكم في اتجاه النص. يعني مثلا في العربي هيبدأ مثلا الاول بالكلمة من هنا، وبعد كده يجي بايه بالكلمة اللي هي العربي. طيب اعمل الكلام ده ازاي؟ تعالوا نشوف. اول حاجه بستخدم اللي هي التاجه اللي هي xlif، وعشان استخدمها لازم اعمل ال XML NS اللي هو XML نيم سبيس، وبعد كده بشتغل بيه اللي هو الاكس ليف بتاعي دوت بهذا الشكل. لازم انده على هذا النيم سبيس XLIFF، خلاص، وهيبقى ماشي بهذا النيم سبيس. طبعا انا ممكن انده على نفس النيم سبيس من هنا، اقول مثلا الكلمة او الجملة اللي هي هتبقى عبارة عن string، وطبعا الاسم بتاعها هيبقى ممكن نقول order summary، خلاص. بعد كده اللي هو النيم، ده الكي بتاعي. وطبعا المفروض هكتب القيمة بتاعتي هنا اللي هي هتبقى عبارة عن ايه، الشكل اللي هو ده، بالاضافة ان الاسم المتغير هيبقى في الاكسليف. فهاجي اقول له انا عايز القيمة بتاعتك هتبقى بهذا. طبعا انا واقف على اللغة الافتراضية اللغة الانجليزية. وبعد كده المفروض ان هقول هنا التاجة بتاعتي بقى اللي هي الاكسليف، تمام. طيب هنا اديله اي دي، الاي دي دوت هيبقى نفس الاي دي بتاعي اللي انا هبعته، يعني ده يعتبر زي اكنه معرف لمين، للجزئية ديت. تمام. هقول مثلا عايز مثلا label name، تمام. وممكن استخدم برضو هنا حاجة زي تاجة برضو او attribute، اللي هو example، حاجة زي مثال يعني، عشان المترجم يبقى يفهم ايه الكلمة اللي هيتم تبديلها او شكل الكلمة اللي هيتم تبديلها. فاقول مثلا احمد، تمام. وبعد كده بقى ديت محتوى الكلمة اللي هيتم استبدالها من خلال اللي انا هبعت المتغير. يبقى قيمة المتغير اللي انا هبعته من الاكواد هتروح ويتم تبديلها بالكلمة اللي هنا، تمام. او ممكن مثلا اقول البرسنت اس، او اي رمز انا عايز ان هو يتم استبدال الجزء ده بيه. خلاص. باجي بقى على الكود بتاعي، المفروض ان انا انده على النص اللي هو السترينج. اقول get resource، تمام. اعتقد ان get resource ده ممكن نستخدم get string مباشرة، خلاص. وهنا بيقول لي السترينج، اقول له r دوت string، وبعد كده الاي دي بتاعي اللي هو ايه، اللي هو المفروض ان انا واخد الاسم بتاعي order summary underscore name. بعد كده ابعت لي اللي هو الاوبجكت، طبعا هيبقى اللي هو الفورمات arguments اللي هي المعاملات يعني. هبعت له قيمة المتغير اللي هو هيبقى ال n بهذا الشكل، خلاص. يبقى قيمة المتغير هتروح للفورمات الخاص بالسترنج بتاعي اللي هو هيتم تعريفه في هذا المكان. وطبعا القيمة اللي هتجيلي بقى سواء أحمد أو علي أو خالد أو منى أو أي شيء، هيتم استبدال الكلمة ديت اللي هي موجودة في التاجة بتاعت الإكس ليف ديت، ويتم استبدال الكلمة بيها. وبالتالي المسموح بس فقط من خلال المترجم إن هو يترجم الجزء ده فقط وما يلعبش في الجزء ده. وانا اديته مثال حتى عشان يبقى فاهم، لو في لغة مثلا بتحتاج اتجاه معين زي اللغة العربية، يبقى عارف ان الاتجاه بتاعها يتغير مثلا من اليمين لليسار. طيب تعالوا بقى نعمل الترجمة بتاعتها بهذا الشكل. تمام. طبعا الاكسليف بتاعي برضو نفس الشيء. خلاص. وطبعا انا هنا هقول له ايه، اشيل الكلام ده كده واقول له الاسم بهذا الشكل. يبقى النص بتاعي هيجي الاسم هيروح ماشي في الاتجاه دوت. وممكن اقول له مثلا هنا مثلا احمد. تمام. اسيب الاي دي نفس الشكل، بحيث ان هو هيبقى مثلا اسم احمد، اسم خالد. طبعا ده احمد دوت اكزامبل بس لمين، للراجل اللي هو الترانسليتور، ده المترجم اللي بيترجم لمين ملف ده كله على بعضه. خلاص. بعد كده بقى ايه، بتعامل بقى مع العمليات بتاعتي بدون اي مشاكل، واعمل رن واشوف النتيجة في النهاية. طبعا كل اللي احنا عملناه تقريبا احنا يعني عملنا الحاجات دي قبل كده، فقط بس محتاج اللي انت تمسك بقى النصوص ديت اللي هي خاصة بالكلمات ديت وتترجمها في زي ما احنا اتعلمنا في الملفين، وتقدر تقراها بهذا الشكل وتستخدم معاها المتغيرات اللي هي الاكسليف. طيب انا اكتفي بهذا القدر، وان شاء الله نشوفكم في دروس قادمة بإذن الله تعالى. نسألكم صالح الدعاء، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.